your Bibles, turn back to 1 Kings chapter 19. We're just going to read that last verse to kind of bring us up to speed where we got to yesterday. Elijah has just had a real victory at Mount Carmel, and Jezebel's now after him, and just in that quick of a turnaround, he goes from being on top of the world to saying, God, I just want to die. And we have a tendency sometimes when we read this, and I've heard preachers preach this and do the whole sermon talking about how sorry that Elijah was. In fact, I've heard more of those than probably what you're going to hear me do, that just talks about, well, a man, ought to be more stable. But yet here you're looking at one of the greatest men that done so many miracles. And just like Brother O'Mado and I were talking last night, what we see in here that I believe God is trying to show us is that he was human. Amen. And that nobody, even great men, are perfect. That they're still encased in a human body. They still have weaknesses. And they still deal with those weaknesses. And as we see here, they deal with it on a daily basis. Yeah. Because one day you're killing the prophets of Baal and you're calling down fire. Yeah. And then just at most a few days later, you're saying, God, kill me. I don't want to live. Well, he's about to quit. That's what he's about. He's about saying, hey, I'm putting in my resignation for this prophet job. Yeah. I'm just going to quit. And I talked to you about how the quitting has become epidemic across our nation. We quit church when we get something, at least a little something don't go right. We quit our marriage when it gets tough. We quit paying bills. We quit ministry. We quit God. We quit living right. We quit. We live in an epidemic age of quitters. And we're not exempt from this phenomenon, this quitting deal. Well, I talked to you last time about don't quit now. Here's why we can't quit. Don't quit now because there's too much in the past to keep. And it's odd how that mine and Brother Cole's sermons have kind of correlated in this, and we both, did this ahead of time. But don't quit now because there's too much in the past to keep. We covered that just the other day. Now we get down to my second point. Number 2, don't quit now because there's too much of the present to lose. There's too much of the present to lose. Notice in 1 Kings 19, we've been in 1 Kings the whole time, but notice in verse 11 through 19, in chapter 19, he said, Go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord, and behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind rent the mountains and brake in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord wasn't in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. Now, I'm not going to major on this morning, but I do want to hit it just a little bit. Sometimes we have a tendency to base our Christian life on the big stuff. Yeah. Okay, I'm a Christian today, I'm going to serve God today because something big is going on in my life. And he illustrated an earthquake, that's a big deal. We said God wasn't in the earthquake. Yeah, a great wind, God wasn't in that. And then a fire, but God wasn't in any of those things. And then he says that yet a still small voice came, and that was God. And it was so when Elijah heard what? The still small voice. That he wrapped his face in his mantle, went out, stood in the entering of the cave, and behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And that may be the question that God's asking you today. And by the way, I don't believe that God is at all referencing the geographical location of Elijah. And I know that fits into it, but he's not asking Elijah, what are you doing here at this particular cave? He's saying, Elijah, what are you doing in this state of mind? Yeah. Elijah, what are you doing wanting to quit? Elijah, what's going on that you want to quit me? That you're asking me to kill you? What's going on with this? What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I've been very zealous for the Lord God. By the way, anybody here ever feel that way? Lord, I've tried my best to do right. Yeah. Lord, I've been faithful to church. I paid my tithes. I went on visitation. I've tried to be a good witness. But yet, Lord, this junk happens to me. In his case, he got somebody wanting to kill him. And I mean, he's just, we see his humanity saying, Lord, I've tried to do right. And yet, this stuff is happening to me. And he says, he just talks real firm to God. He says, I've been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken my covenant, thrown down mine altars, slain the prophets with the sword. And then get this. Everybody please see this. And he says, and I, even I, I'm the only one left. Now, come on. Have you ever felt that way? I mean, even in a church. Yeah. I'm the only one left. I mean, really, I'm the only one that's really got it together. I'm the only one that's really doing right. I'm the only one that's right. And that's what Elijah said to God. To God himself, he said, Lord, I have tried. I've been a faithful preacher. I proclaimed your word. I prophesied what you told me to say. He said, and all these things have gone on. He said, I even killed all the prophets with the sword, and even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away. I'm doing right, and they hate me for it. Right. You felt that way? Yeah. I'm trying to follow my conviction. Yeah. And they hate me. Mm-hmm. Who hates me? Sometimes even the people in the church. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm trying to do right and they hate me. They got murderous thoughts toward me. I mean, Jezebel said, you're going to die, man. You're going to die. But I got to get to my message. It said, and the Lord God said to him, go, return on thy way to the wilderness of Damascus. When thou comest, anoint Hazael to be king over Syria. And Jehu, the son of Nimshi, shalt thou appoint to be king, or anoint to be king over Israel. And Elisha, the son of Shaphat, of Abel-Meholah, shalt thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. He's going to take your place. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet, and then he answers that other question. He said, here's what's going to happen in the present. He said, and I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every mouth which has not kissed him. He said, Elijah, you're not the only one. There's other people that love me. There's other people that are trying to do right. You may think you're the only one right. You may think that you're the only one that's got it figured out. But Elijah, I want you to know there's a whole bunch of people that are trying to serve God too. And if there's anything I want to get across to you today, we in fundamentalism sometimes get that mentality. That we are the only ones that really love the Lord God. And the truth of the matter is, God says every once in a while, you know what, there's some other people that love God too. Amen. There's some other people that love God too. And that's what God said to Elijah. God said there's still a now. There's still a present. There's still a work to do. There's still things worth getting up and giving your life for. He said, Elijah, and notice all these things he says, that there's still something to live for. There's still something to get out of bed for. In the German War, I was reading this little story that on the plane down, there was a movie on the flight, and it was the movie about Winston Churchill. I don't know if you've ever watched that. I don't go to the movie, so I have to wait, till it comes out, on TV. But this particular movie is about Winston Churchill, and I was, and I'll tell you what, as I was watching some of the things that happened in that movie, and I just begin to kind of correlate with Christian warfare. But anyway, London was getting ready to be invaded by Germany. I mean, pretty much the rest of Europe had fallen. And England had kind of stayed back, and I know you've all heard about that massive evacuation they did with those ships and the little boats and all those people that, it wasn't even naval boats, it was fishing boats, and how they evacuated all those British soldiers. That's a good deal too. But anyway, London's getting ready to be bombed, getting ready to be invaded by German bombers and fighter planes, and they're on the way. The president and prime minister, Winston Churchill, he goes out and he told all the pilots that they're out of fuel. We're out of fuel. And that each plane had only enough fuel to take off, maybe fly around the field, and then land. That's all we got. And then he said this. He said, we don't have the right to ask you to get in your planes, and you are not ordered nor expected to fly. We don't have the right to ask you to get in your planes. You're not ordered nor expected to fly. He turned and walked off. The siren started blowing as the planes from Germany started approaching, and they could see a cloud of German planes that were coming. And this is going to be the end of London. This is going to be the end of England. This is probably going to be Hitler taking over, all of Europe. And they could see these planes coming in the distance, and every pilot went and got in his plane, every one of them. Every plane took off from the field. And as all these planes began to take off from the field, the Germans saw these planes coming in the distance, and they turned and retreated.
Amen. Amen.
London was saved. England was saved. It was a big turning point in the war effort. You say, now, what does that have to do with this message? Someone, I'm talking to you right now, someone believed that England was worth saving. Somebody believed that it was worth fighting for, and yes, some believed it was worth dying for, because many of those planes didn't even have enough fuel to get back, and they crashed and burned. But they won the victory without firing a shot.
That's right.
And I want to ask you today, isn't our service to God worth it? Isn't our marriage worth it? Aren't our kids and grandkids worth it? I mean, hey, there's too much in the present to lose for us to quit. There's no quitting place for any. I'm talking to you. There's no quitting place for you to quit. You say, but Brother Linton, you don't know what's going on. I'm saying to you, there's no quitting place. Brother Linton, you don't know what we're going through. There's no quitting place. Brother Linton, there's no quitting place. There's too much to gain to lose. There's a standard to be raised. Ephesians chapter 6 tells us this. He said, be strong, finally. He said, and that deserves to be preached on. Look at that word, finally. He said, finally, at the end of it all, at the end of the race, at the end, he said, finally, my brother, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God. We know that. He said, we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. He said, take the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand. And that's what God has sent me here today to ask you to do. Just stand. Amen. There's too much in the present to lose for us to quit now. It's hard to stand, but it's worth it. Stand for the church. Stand for America. Stand for your family. Stand for your home. Well, there's a standard to be raised. There's saints to be roused. Romans 13:11 says, and now knowing the time, that now it's high time to awake out of your sleep. And now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. There's saints to be roused. there's also sinners to be reconciled. Souls are dying. Men are crying. How many of you think there's more people saved in America than there were 40 years ago? No way. How many of you think out of the 7 billion people that are on planet Earth, do you realize that most of the people on this planet are lost and going to die and go to hell? Folks, there's sinners out there to be reconciled. Souls are dying. Men are crying. Somebody has got to win them to Christ. And when I stand before God, I don't want to stand before God empty-handed. Paul realized this in Romans chapter 9. He said, for I could wish that myself were accursed. He said, but that I were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the law. Paul, you talk about a strong statement. He said, I care so much for my kinsmen, for my country. He said, I want those people to be saved. If it takes my life to do it, so be it. Whatever the obstacle, listen, whatever the obstacle, whatever the challenge, whatever the cost, there's too much in the present to lose for you to quit. We can't quit now. Look at all these kids and teenagers that we have here. Last night, all these little bitty kids and teenagers. Now, honestly, some of them didn't know what they were doing. Just listen to them. Don't get mad at them. Some of them were laughing and joking while they were at the altar. And some of them didn't know what they're doing. But the point is, they're here. Yeah. The point is, they're around the things of God. And I promise you, it's not going to hurt them to go to the altar.
Amen.
You understand me? Yeah. But what we need to do is look at that and look that, listen, there's too much in the present for us to quit now. We can't quit now. Number 3, and I'm done. Don't quit now because there's too much in the future to gain. If Elijah had quit, please listen to me, everybody here. If Elijah had quit, he wouldn't have anointed Elisha.
That's right.
And Elisha did exactly twice the miracles that Elijah did.
That's right.
Twice. Twice the power. That's what he asked for, wasn't it? God gave it to him. The world named one of the greatest prophets Elisha because Elijah didn't quit.
That's good.
And that Elisha may be in your Sunday school class. That Elisha may be sitting in your church. That Elisha may be laying in a bed in the nursery. That Elisha may be in your teen group. That Elisha may be one of your buddies, your friends. And what I'm saying to you today, when you quit, it don't just affect you. It affects the Elishas that are watching you. Don't quit now because there's too much in the future to gain. I remember one of Jacob's cousins, Sam Smith, and when he was a little old kid, I remember he used to tell everybody he was the future pastor of Cornerstone. And for a little old boy, I'm talking about just a little boy, his dad had left him, and he was just kind of a church rat all his life. And went to the school and was always around there and got to be a teenager. He was over at my house half the time, would show up 11, 12 o'clock at night and, stay there. And sometimes it was aggravating, and sometimes you just want to go to bed, but Sam would be there. But right now, and there was times in my life and times even as in some of the greatest days that I ever had as pastor, that the devil would come to me and say, hey, you're the only one doing right. You're the only one that's still, holding the torch. And the devil would come to me at times like that, just like he did last week, just like he does you. But you know what? Sam right now is doing great work. I just held a revival for him, did his 10th anniversary, a church we planted there in Grove. And a lot of people have been saved. Church is doing great, getting ready to build another building, just brought another 11 acres of property. And God is just blessing his ministry. And you know what? I'm glad I didn't quit. Amen. Because of Sam Smith. Noah Taylor's pastoring the largest church in Tennessee right now. One off one of our bus routes. I'm glad I didn't quit then. Daniel Mann starting a church in Chicagoland where he has 19 different nationalities that have been saved in that church there in Chicago, even a Jewish community. God is blessing him, having people saved, baptized all the time. I'm glad that I didn't quit because of what's going on in Chicago. I look at the Mitch Leonards and even the Ben Langleys and the Nolan Winds and the Kyle Walders, Larry Hudson, and there's a long list of Brother Jacob's got a brother that has surrendered to preach, a younger brother, and I'm glad right now that I didn't quit when the devil was whispering in my ear, when the devil was saying, run, run, run. I'm glad that I didn't quit for these guys that have now answered the call and are doing great works for God. Amen. Elisha did twice the miracles, right? You're just studying it. Yeah. But who was it that was on the Mount of Transfiguration? It was Elijah. Elisha did twice the miracles, but it was Elijah that was there on the Mount of Transfiguration with Jesus. Amen. Well, you ever thought about that or not? You know why? Because he didn't quit. Amen. He didn't quit when his flesh wanted to. Yeah. He didn't quit when his feelings was hurt. He didn't quit even when he had fears. He didn't quit. He heard the voice of God. Whoa! He heard the voice of God. And when he heard the voice of God, he said, hey, I can't quit. I can't quit now. There's too much in the past. There's too much in the present. And there's too much in the future for me to quit now. 2 Timothy 4:6 says, Paul here, he says, I'm ready to be offered in the time of my departure is at hand. He said, I fought a good fight. I finished my course. I've kept the faith. Henceforth there's laid up to me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord the righteous judge shall give me at that day, and not to me only, but to all them that love his appearing.